Good day. This is the lesson 2 of creative writing. So for today's discussion, we are going to learn about the figures of speech and the diction. So first, let us go deeper to the figures of speech. What are figures of speech? Figures of speech are words or phrases used in a non-literal sense for rhetorical or vivid effect. There are numerous kinds of figures of speech. Number 1 is simile. Simile is a comparison of two unlike objects or things using like or as. For example, the sentence, she ran like the wind. Running and the wind are two unlike objects. When you compare the speed of running to the speed of the wind, then definitely you are using simile. What else? The sentence, the snow was as thick as a blanket. So what are the two things being described in this sentence? The snow, the thickness of the snow, and the thickness of the blanket. Next, she was as light as a feather. So in here, we are comparing the lightness of that person to a feather. Another example, you are acting like a baby. Next, he felt like a bug under a microscope. Or his or her feeling is being compared to a bug under a microscope. And the last sentence, his temper was as explosive as a volcano. So, the temper and the volcano are the two things being described here. So, if you're going to review these sentences, all these sentences use as or like. So that makes them a simile. So in this slide, which of the following is not another example of a simile? He's as messy as a pig when he eats, or he eats like a pig, or he is a pig. So what's your answer? Okay, so the answer here is he is a pig. The next figures of speech is metaphor. A metaphor is an implied comparison between two unlike things that have something in common. Example, hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. That is coming from Emily Dickinson's Hope is the thing with feathers. So in that literature, or in that particular statement, hope is being compared with feathers. Okay. Hope is another thing with a feather, but they are being compared to each other without using as or like. The definition of a metaphor is similar to the definition of a simile, but there is one important difference between the two. Okay, so remember, the definition of simile has two parts. Number 1, two unlike things being compared. Okay, check, same as with metaphor. And then another definition of simile is that the words like or as are used to make the comparison. Okay. But in metaphor, it's a different thing. Okay. In metaphor, there will also be two parts of the definition. Okay. But the next one, metaphor doesn't use as or like. Okay, example. Fido is like a teddy bear. Or Fido is as soft as a teddy bear. That's a simile. But to make it as a metaphor, Fido is a teddy bear. Another example. That boy is like a pig. That boy is as messy as a pig. Those two sentences are simile. To make it as a metaphor, that boy is a pig. So considering those examples, we can see that simile and metaphor are both used to compare two unlike objects. But the difference is that in simile, it uses as or like, but in metaphor, you do not need to use as or like. The next one is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia uses words that imitate sounds associated with objects or actions. Example: the crooked skirt swinging rack by rack by rack. That is from the Ulysses by James Joyce. So when you see a bee, you often hear buzz, right? Another, when you see a phone, a cell phone or a telephone, you often hear ring or ring. So buzz and ring are both examples of onomatopoeia. Start thinking about what you think is best definition for these figures of speech. Another, when you see a cow, you often hear moo. When you see a fireworks or a bomb, you hear boom. When you see a duck, you often hear quack. So onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like its meaning. It can also be described as the use of a word which imitates a sound. Another example includes scritch, whir, sizzle, crunch, bang, pow, zap, roar, growl, click, snap, crackle, and pop. So the next figures of speech is personification. Personification endows human qualities or abilities to inanimate objects or abstraction. Another definition is that personification is giving human traits or characteristics to something that is not human, such as animals, objects, or non-living things. So, think of it this way. When a writer uses personification, he or she gives characteristics of a person to an animal, object, or thing. Example: the waves slapped the shore and dragged away everything's not anchored down. Ah, William, we're wary of the weather, said the sunflowers shining with dew. That is from William Blake's Two Sunflowers Move in the Yellow Room. So notice this example. The waves slapped. So the word slapped, or the action of slapping, is being what? It's being acted by a person. But the writer used slapped for a wave. Another, ah, William, we're wary of the weather, said the sunflowers shining with dew. Said the sunflowers. So as we all know, when we say said, that means talked. So the sunflower here is what? Given a human character or human trait as of talking. So another example. The willow tree shook her long hair. So the object here is the willow tree. But then the writer used an action or a word that is usually or normally used to describe the action of a person. Shook her long hair. Okay. So the example is referring to the way that the willow tree's long branches sway in the wind. So by saying shook her long hair, meaning the tree is given the characteristic of a human. So the tree is being personified. Another example, the car danced across the icy road. The angry, okay? The angry clouds marched, angry and marched across the sky. The stars in the clear night sky winked at me. The tulips nodded their heads in the breeze. So those are examples of personification. Next is apostrophe. Apostrophe is addressing an absent person or thing that is an abstract, inanimate, or inexistent character, or even dead. For example, death be not proud, though some have hold thee. So that is coming from John Donne, death be not proud. So in this sentence, death is being addressed, and as we all know that death is an abstract word. Okay, it's as if the writer or the speaker is talking to an abstract word, which is death. Another example of apostrophe. This is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. O stars and clouds and wings, ye are all about to mock me. If ye really pity me, crush sensation and memory. Let me become as naught, but if not, depart, depart, and leave me in darkness. So the speaker here is talking to stars and clouds and winds. So we all know that those three things are inanimate objects. Another example, busy old fool, unruly sun, why dost thou this? Through windows and through curtains call on us? Must to thy motions lovers' seasons run? Saucy pedantic wretch. So that is coming from by John Donne, The Rising Sun. The Sun Rising, rather. So in this poem, the speaker is talking to or addressing the sun. And we all know that sun is an inanimate object. Another example is hyperbole or hyperbole. Hyperbole is a figure of speech which contains an exaggeration for emphasis. For example, it's been ages since I last saw you. So the exaggeration there is it's been ages. So it's countless years and times and ages since the person, the speaker, have seen the one or which is referring to. What else? To make enough noise to wake the dead. Waking the dead is another exaggeration because it is impossible to wake the dead. Another, my backpack weighs a ton. So alam naman natin, we all know that 1 ton, the measurement ton, is very heavy. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you are actually carrying a backpack that weighs 1 ton. It means you are carrying a super heavy backpack, but it doesn't literally mean as 1 ton. Okay, it's just an exaggeration. That's why it's hyperbole or hyperbole. Another example. I've told you 1,000,000 times. So is it possible to tell something 1,000,000 times? No. So the speaker means that I have told you a lot of times. A lot that I cannot count it already. So hyperbole is a major exaggeration or overstatement. So authors use these figures of speech to emphasize a point or even add humor. Think about many times in a day you exaggerate what you say and use hyperbole. Okay, think of it. Example, another kind of speech is SYNECDOCHE. SYNECDOCHE is a figure of speech in which a part stands for the whole, and thus something else is understood within the thing being mentioned. So, for example, wheels. Okay. When we say wheels, we can actually pertain to a car. And as we know, wheels are part of a car. So, meaning, wheels being part of a car can be actually meant to a car itself, the whole car itself. Another example, the word sails is often used to refer to a whole ship. Okay? The phrase hired hands can be used to refer to workers. Hands are part of the body. Another, the word head can refer to counting cattle or people. Okay, so for example, I'm going to have a party with a maximum of 100 heads. So 100 heads means 100 people. The word bread can be used to represent food in general or money. For example, in the prayer, give us our daily bread, right? So the bread here doesn't actually mean that you're going to eat tinapay daily. So the bread here, as being kind of a food, is being used to represent a food or foods. Another, breadwinner, is the breadwinner. Another, the word boots. Boots refers to soldiers. Okay, boots are the shoes being used by the soldiers, so it's part of their uniform. Okay, but it can be referred to soldiers. The word bubbly refers to champagne. When we pour champagne, there are bubbles. So that's why we can use bubbly for champagne. The word glasses refer to eyewear. Okay, the next figures of speech is metonymy. Metonymy is a figures of speech in which the name of an attribute or a thing is substituted for the thing itself. Okay, for example, the pen is more mighty or mightier than the sword. So in this example, we know that pen represents the act of writing, and then the sword represents the act or substitutes the act of fighting. Okay, so let's have another example for you to understand it better. So the word crown. Crown in substitute for a royal person. Okay, we will swear loyalty to the crown. So it's like, we will swear loyalty to the king, to the queen, or someone in authority. Okay, another example, the White House or the Oval Office. So it's used in place of the president or any White House staff or official. So the White House will be making an announcement around noon today. Or in the Philippines, so let's make it locally, Malacanang. Okay. The Malacanang will be making an announcement around noon today. So it does not necessarily mean that the Malacanang Palace will speak or will talk. So it actually means that there is someone in Malacanang Palace who will be making an announcement. So definitely it's either the president or the speaker. Next is suits in place of business people. So if we don't get these reports in today, the suits will be after us. Another, heart, to refer to love or emotion. My dear, you have all of my heart. So meaning you have all of my love. Okay, another example, another kind of figures of speech is oxymoron or oxymoron. Oxymoron is a figures of speech which combines incongruous and apparently contradicting words and meanings for a special effect. For example, here's much to do with hate, but more with love. Hate and then love. Why then? Oh, brawling love. Oh, loving hate. Oh, anything of nothing first create. Loving hate. So those are contradicting words. Oh, heavy lightness. Another, heavy and then lightness. Serious vanity. Misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms. chaos, and then well-seeming forms, another contributing ideas or words. So that is coming from William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. So let's have another example of oxymoron. Act naturally, alone together, just like the movie of Liskin, Alone Together. Amazingly awful, bittersweet, clearly confused, dark light, deafening silence, definitely maybe, farewell reception, farewell and then reception, growing smaller, jumbo shrimp, because a big shrimp is a prawn, and then only choice. So those are examples of oxymoron. Okay. Next is paradox. Paradox is a statement which seems on its face to be logically contradictory or absurd, yet turns out to be interpretable in a way that makes sense. Okay. Actually, these are also contradicting words, but it has a deeper meaning, or it has a deeper sense. I must be cruel only to be kind. That is coming from William Shakespeare's Hamlet. Another example. Save money by spending it. Saving and then spending, so those are two contradictory words. Another, if I know one thing is that I know nothing. If I know one thing is that I know nothing. Knowing one thing, then knowing nothing. So those are two contradictory words used in this in the sentence, or in the full thought of the sentence. This is the beginning of the end. This is the beginning and then the end. Deep down, you're really shallow. Men work together whether they work together or apart. Working together and then apart. So that is from Robert Frost. What a pity that youth must be wasted on the young. Youth must be wasted on the young. So when we say wasted, it actually comes with being old. Then I can resist anything but temptation. Okay, we know that temptation are the things that we need to resist. But in this sentence, I can resist anything but temptation, by Oscar Wilde. So when we say paradox, so what makes it different, diba? What makes paradox different from oxymoron? So you can actually spot the difference between oxymoron and paradox by looking at where are the two contradictory words. In oxymoron, usually the two contradictory words are close to each other. Okay, for example, act naturally. Okay, so that is oxymoron. Bittersweet, so they are close to each other. You do not need to finish the sentence or the whole statement to see the contradicting ideas. However, in paradox, this is more poetic. Okay. You need to finish the statement for you to get the contradiction. Okay? For example, save money by spending it. I need to save money by spending it. Okay. The words save and spending are far from each other, so therefore you need to complete the sentence in order for you to get the contradiction. Okay? So it's like paradox is the contradiction as a whole sentence, okay, compared to oxymoron. Next is irony versus sarcasm and satire. Okay, these three are also being confused because they are actually related to each other. So let us start with irony. So when we say irony, so there is a discrepancy between what is said versus what is meant, what is said versus what is done, what is expected or intended versus what happens, what is meant or said versus what others understand. There are three types of irony. The first one is dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is used when the audience know more about what's going on than the characters. This creates suspense or humor as the audience waits to see if the characters will come to understand what's really happening. So when we say dramatic irony, so these are irony being used commonly to a play or a dialogue or a screenplay or a drama. Okay, for example, in Macbeth by William Shakespeare, Macbeth appears to be loyal to Duncan, but he is actually plotting his murder. Okay, being loyal and then plotting his murder. So that's the irony there. But the characters on that play, of course, do not know what is actually the plan of Macbeth. Duncan doesn't know Macbeth's plans, but the audience or the reader knows what is going to happen. Okay, another example. A woman thinks her boyfriend is acting strangely because he's about to propose, but the audience knows that he is planning to run away with another woman. So that is intensifying the emotions. Okay, so the irony there is that the character, the girl, the woman character in the story is expecting a proposal from the boyfriend because the boyfriend is acting strange, but in reality, the boyfriend is actually planning to run away or to leave her. Okay? So the character doesn't know it, but the audience knows it. So that's make it ironic. Another, sa scary movie. The character goes into a house they think is empty, but the audience knows that the killer is in the house. So that increases the suspense feeling. Okay? What else? In the movie Toy Story, Buzz Lightyear, you know Buzz Lightyear, the robot, thinks that he is a real space ranger. So that's what he expects, that's what he thinks. But in reality, he is just a toy. So he doesn't know that it's just a toy, but the audience knows it. What else? In Frozen, the audience is aware that Elsa has powers that are hard to control. Her sister Anna does not know about it. So he thought or he thinks that Elsa is just being cold to her. The truth is that Elsa is being distant from Anna because he wants to protect her sister and is scared of hurting her. So the audience feels for both girls. Next is situational irony. So this type of irony occurs when something happens that is completely different from what was expected. So for example, a man has been working hard all his life, saving a portion of every paycheck for retirement. Upon retirement, he plans to move to the Virgin Islands, sit back and relax. On the morning of his retirement party, he dies of a sudden massive heart attack. Okay, so what's ironic here? So the man is expecting that after his retirement, he will live a happy life. But in reality, what happened? He just died. Okay, another situational irony. A fire station burns down. So what's make it ironic? Burns down. So who would expect, a fire station burns down? Because actually, a fire station must know all the precautionary measures, must know all the do's and don'ts so that their establishment won't be burned down. What else? A pilot has a fear of heights. So that's situational irony. So what are we expecting from a pilot? She must not be afraid of heights, but in reality, he's afraid of the heights. What else? An anti-technology group sets up a website to recruit new club members. So when we say anti-technology people, so they should not be using technology. But what they did is that they created a website, and we know that website is something that is in technology.